So after watching, the Arkansas game, I think we did a lot of really good things in the game. And I think it was also fairly apparent that when we had mental intensity, good mental energy, good focus, we actually executed pretty well. And there were times in the game, especially in the second half, where we sort of lost our mental edge, our intensity, affected our focus, and we didn't play as well and actually let the other team get back in the game. So I think the lesson to be learned in all that is you got to maintain intensity for 60 minutes in the game, regardless of the score. I mean, there's games out there every week where people have leads and, lose their focus and, the outcome is not, what you would want it to be. So, um, this game we're playing against Tennessee, big rivalry game, means a lot to a lot of people in the state of Alabama, and I'm sure there too. It's one of the best rivalries in college football. They have a really good team. They're ranked in the 15th or whatever, and so they have a really, really good team, very explosive. Josh Heupel has done, an outstanding job there. They play with great tempo on offense, which is challenging for the defense, but their ability to run the ball and create balance has been, pretty phenomenal this year. I mean, they run it for like 230, pass it for like 210, whatever. And that kind of balance is always something that is difficult. Their defense is playing really, really good. They're in the top three or four, in the SEC, ranked nationally, and negative play, sacks, tackles for loss, and those types of things. I think Joe Milton is a really good quarterback. They got three really good runners who have all been very productive. They've got good skill guys outside. So this is, all around, a really, really, good team. So it's important for us, to have a great week of preparation and be able to maintain focus in practice, in meetings, and whatever we're doing to be able to carry that forward in a game and be able to sustain it in a game for 60 minutes, which is what it's going to take in a game like this.
Sure, right here with Nick. Yeah, Tennessee, their offense has been known to use a wide split with receivers. What were some of the challenges of trying to cover that?
Uh, well, they certainly make you defend 53 yards wide of the field. And there's two challenges. It affects run support in the box because the guys that are covering the receivers are so far away from the box. And it also, they run a lot of vertical routes from out there. So the people that are covering them get pretty isolated because they're far away from whether it's split safety or middle of the field safety. So it is very challenging. And, the thing that I think is going to be really important is not to give up big explosive plays, which was, a real issue for us a year ago.
Katie,
When dealing with freshmen that are getting significant playing time, what's the balance in being patient and letting them learn and grow and kind of knowing when it's time to get tougher on them?
Yeah, well, I think that everyone's a little different, when it comes to that. Some guys are that, even though they're young, they're very mature. They handle their failures fairly well and learn from them. They're focused on, not necessarily the outcome, but what do I have to do to get the outcome? And those guys seem to do pretty well. Some guys that are young, good players, maybe lack a little bit of that maturity, sometimes allow the success and the failure that they're having affect how they approach the next play. And, that's something that, I try to harp on the players that, baseball is a game of failures. So if you made 2 out of 3 outs in baseball, if you struck out 2 out of 3 times, got to hit the third time, you'd be in the Hall of Fame. So for young guys, they have to understand that if I can learn and grow from the mistakes that I make, not waste the failings. That would be significant in me making improvement and developing. And, that takes, the right mindset. And, I think the relative degree that young guys have in that area sort of determines how fast they improve.
Come over here to Charlie.
Hey, Coach, you mentioned the negative plays that Tennessee's defense can create. Just how important is it for the pass rush to clean up some of its issues with that?
Well, it's very important. It's been important all year. And it's something that, we have to do a really good job planning wise, and we have to fundamentally play better. It's a combination of both. And both those things are, coaching and teaching things that we need to do better. Guys need to set better, hand placement's got to be better, footwork's got to be better. And we got to make sure whatever scheme it is that we're trying to use, that players are capable of doing it without putting themselves in bad position.
What do you think of how Quandarius Robinson played on Saturday?
Q played good. He played very well. He's been a core special teams guy for us and one of our better special teams players probably ever, here. And when he had opportunities to play in the game, he did a good job.
Going up against Joe Milton this weekend, in the beginning of the year, everyone was talking about he could throw it 80 yards plus, but now he could beat you with your legs as well. What are you telling your guys this week about a dual threat quarterback like that?
Well, I think I don't see, Joe a whole lot different than, what we played against in the past. When Hooker was there, guy can throw the ball. He's accurate. He's got a strong arm. Can make plays down the field, which, they take a lot of vertical shots, and he certainly has the capability of making those plays, but he's also athletic enough to extend plays in the pocket and run if necessary. So don't tell him anything different than any other time you're playing a quarterback. You can't get pushed by the quarterback. You got to keep the guy in front of you. You got to have disciplined pass rush lanes, and got to try to make the guy throw the ball on time, from the pocket, and hopefully we can cover him well enough to make it work in the back end.
Chase.
How have the freshman outside linebackers, Keon Keeley and Yanze Pierre, looked in practice this year?
Both of those guys came in the fall. So the guys we only had 4 guys that came in the fall. And because those guys weren't here in the spring, they had to try to catch up in the summer. I think their learning curve has been a lot greater. We're pleased with the progress that they're making, but it's hard to get them enough reps at this time of the year to try to get them where they need to be so that they could, make a contribution. I think, Rusal was here earlier, so he's a little bit ahead of the game.
Just what have you seen from J.C. Latham, and what went into him staying on the right side, whereas some guys might have made the move to the left previously?
Well, he's really a good right tackle. He's played really well. Obviously, being SEC Offensive Lineman of the Week, he had a really good game in the last game. And, he's big, strong, physical. He's the prototype, right tackle that everybody would look for in terms of having a power guy who is effective, in being able to pass block well enough. There's, I guess you always hope that if we move the right tackle to the left tackle, that would make everything better. But I guess the question you have to also ask yourself is, would that make us any better at right tackle? Or do you just try to attack the solution of trying to get the left tackle to play to the standard that you need him to play without making multiple changes in the offensive line? So, we could have a debate about that. And nobody really knows the answer to that, but we have made a commitment to try to keep some stability with the guys where they're playing and get the guys to play left tackle better.
Go to Nick. You didn't have one? Okay. Cody, right here.
Justice Haynes got a few snaps on Saturday. What was your assessment of just the limited time that he got?
Oh, he played great. He's been playing really well all year. So we've got 4 guys at the position, and all those guys deserve reps and playing time. And it's really, really hard to get 4 guys at running back position to be in rhythm and to play a significant number of snaps. So, Jam played well when he was in there. Roydale and Jace both played really well when they were in there. And Justice played really good when he was in there. So, we're pleased with all those guys. And, maybe there'll be some opportunity for him to make a bigger contribution in the future.
Finish up 2 more, Tony and then Kurt.
After going over the film, what led to the consistency in the running game, and then how do you kind of replicate that and continue that consistency moving forward?
Well, we did run the ball better in the second half, but to me, the way I sort of evaluate it is, what is the efficiency in the running game? In other words, how many 4+ runs did you have versus less than 4? And that's the efficiency that we continue to look for. And it was a lot better in the second half. I think we got a hat on a hat, kind of knew exactly what they were doing, formationally. I think the offensive line did a really good job, in creating some holes, and the backs did a good job of running downhill. So that's the way we want it to be all the time. So, we just got to keep working at it so we continue to develop consistency in that part of our team.
Yes, Coach. I understand your stance on sacks, but I wonder if, and I hope I'm not going over the same ground, but 31 sacks so far this year, if that is concerning, and is that fixable at this time of the year?
Well, to the first part of your question, I would say, hell yeah. To the second part is, I do think we have guys that are capable. I think it goes back to that same attention to detail. I mean, there's little things like in certain protections, I know I have inside help. So why would I get beat outside? Does that make sense? So these are not all capability issues. Some of them are things that we could fix. When we're sliding out to block 3-on-3 and the guy doesn't slide out to block the third guy and he runs in and sacks the quarterback, that's a mental error. That's not a physical problem. So it's a combination of all those things that need to get cleaned up with better communication, better execution, and maybe the more knowledge and experience that we get, the more we'll be able to be more effective and consistent in those areas.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
All right. Thank you.